Welcome to Climbing Gym Growth Podcast, where we share stories and strategies from climbing gym owners to help you grow your community and business. Today, I'm joined by Jonathan Brandt from Shift Climbing in Holland, Michigan. Thanks for being here, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right, so to start off, I want to hear some of your backstory personally with climbing and the industry.
Sure. Right on. I started climbing at the university wall at University of Georgia when I was a freshman in 2005. Some of the best climbing years of my life were spent on that little dinky, maybe it was like an EP wall. Fast forward through school, I started working at Stone Summit Climbing, which is now Central Rock, right when it opened in 2010. I was there as kind of wearing every hat under the sun, being a route setter, a front desk manager, an instructor, a youth team coach for about 5 years before moving up to Climb Nashville. At the time, there was two Climb Nashville gyms, and in my time there, we scaled from 2 to 4. And I had taken a role as a head route setter there, and my position evolved into just kind of being like all encompassing of a lot of things: programming, gym design, route setting, events, marketing. Worked hand in hand with a couple of the owners there, doing all kinds of things, and those were really formative years for me. Those were my first opportunities, like being a big part and having a heavy hand in developing new facilities and getting them off the ground. So I'm really thankful for my time there. Um, Traveled for a year after COVID with my fiance in our little vintage travel trailer. And then landed in Salt Lake City, where I started working for the Bouldering Project gyms as what eventually became the director of climbing experience for a couple of years before a friend of mine who I made in Atlanta back in like 2012. We reconnected and decided it was time to start a gym together. It's something we'd always talked about. He lives in Holland, Michigan, and he had started and sold a company of his own and was opening a new chapter of his life and wanted to do this and asked if I'd come along. And I was like, yeah, definitely. So his and I's first chance at like starting a business together, starting a climbing gym of our own, been a part of other people's climbing gyms for a long time, which has been awesome. But it's finally been time to kind of test all the ways that I wanted to do it and see if they work out as well. So here we are. We opened in March of this year, about 6 months or so old. I think that's right. And now I'm talking to you, talking about opening
Awesome.
climbing gyms.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. I'm excited to get into this. So, I just want to start off with a couple context questions about your gym. So, what's the size of your facility?
Uh, just about 12,500 square feet. So we'll call it 12,000 square feet. We have 5,100 square feet of climbing surface, all bouldering, 12 by 12 tension board two. We have like 800 square feet of fitness and strength area. We have a similarly sized cafe in there. Um, and aside from that, some back of house stuff. That's pretty much it.
So you have bouldering, you've got some training boards, I assume you have some like hang boards and things like that in your fitness area.
Yeah, exactly. A hangboard station. We have a couple squat racks, push-up racks, some free weights, treadmills, basic cardio stuff that
Cool.
complements the climbing experience.
Got it. And do you have any fitness classes?
Every once in a while, nothing routine on the calendar right now. That's something that we're interested in, but you can only get going with so many things at once. We've done a couple of kind of specific one-off classes that our members of the community have been psyched to offer, but nothing on the calendar routinely. Same with yoga. We actually do a weekly yoga now, just kind of like using our general space in the middle of the floor before we open 1 or 2 days a week. We have a great partnership with the local yoga company, but no dedicated yoga space.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of the pictures, the gym looks awesome. And your Instagram and YouTube content is incredible. It's some of the best I've seen, especially from like a brand new gym like yours. So, I mean, I'm just curious, who does the filming, the editing, the
Mhm.
lighting? Everything's so perfect.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That means a lot. Going into all of this, content was like one of the pillars that we wanted to kind of base everything on. And we wanted to have good content. We wanted to be sharing cool information and psych and motivate our community. So we started investing that pretty early. We wanted to hit the ground running as a new business. So we partnered up with good friend, neighbor slash coach, videographer, photographer of mine, Josh Larson. So he did a lot of the early content for us. photo and video that you'll find on YouTube or like deep on our Instagram feed. Um, we have a local guy in Michigan named Connor Harrington, who's not a climber, just a freelance photographer, videographer. He's done a lot of the great content for us as well. He did the tilt wall feature with me interviewing in
Cool.
it. He
There's like
did a couple
smoke
member
in the
profiles.
background.
Yeah,
That's
he had a fog
crazy.
machine in there and
That's
stuff. It was all
awesome.
kind of,
It's so
yeah.
epic.
It ended up pretty epic and pretty dramatic. I was a little self-conscious about all that, but I think it's a cool
It's
video.
so cool.
And he's done some things for us. And now we have an in-house marketing and content guy named Zach Kate. He moved to us from Lawrence, Michigan. He's young and developing his skills in that area, but pretty much everything you see coming out now is from him, photo and video, stuff like that. So we've had a few iterations, but it was really awesome to like set the bar and the standard pretty high with Josh and Connor out the gate. And so that whether it's Zach or anybody else with us making content going forward, we kind of know what to aspire to.
They have a lot to live up to.
Yeah. Yeah. A little nerve wracking setting it that high, but it's cool to be able to kind of, have that represent us.
Cool. So yeah, give me a little backstory of the gym. There's another owner, right? Maybe a little bit how you guys met and how the gym took off.
Yeah, totally. My partner's name is Jack Ogilvy. He lives with his wife and 3 kids in Holland. He's from Atlanta. That's where I met him when I was working at Stone Summit. I started giving him some private instruction at the time. He had some trips planned and wanted to boulder more. So I was coaching him on both routes and boulders. And we just kind of hit it off. That was more than a decade ago. And we moved our separate ways, but always loosely stayed in touch over time. And he'd always felt and believed that us starting a business together, or in particular opening a gym together, was like something that he was meant to do. So we'd always kind of tossed ideas around about that. And he called me up in late 2023. He was like, yo, this chapter of my life is closing. I want to bring like a different kind of climbing experience to Holland, Michigan. And obviously I want to do it with you, or you like to be on board. I was like, basically, yeah, let's make it happen. So we kind of like were tossing ideas around from late October 23 to February 24. And in February, we like started making it happen. We like started actively and heavily pursuing a space. We already had locked down what we wanted our mission and our vision and our values to be. We had laid some groundwork, right, on which to build all of this stuff. So we hit go in February, and then there was about 13 months of build and open until we opened in March this year. I think everybody is on a different timeline and has different processes. I feel pretty good about that 13 months to open. I think it's on the quick side, and I think that comes from having done it a lot before and carrying with me a lot of resources around like what boxes need to be checked, what processes to go through, and the relationships I've had in the industry. We hit like probably 2 to 3 months worth of just permitting snags and things like that. But yeah, it was like a year from like hitting go to opening the doors. And that was in March. And we caught the last month of Michigan winter, which we love as a climbing gym because it's terrible up there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good month to open. Yeah.
Exactly. Michiganders might not say the same thing. They might like it, but it is gloomy and wet and snowy and stuff. So it drives people inside. And we had a really great start. And since the exact opposite, Michigan summers are beautiful, right? And everyone be outside. We're on the lake pretty much. And we've had a good summer, but we are very much looking forward to the change of weather coming again in like October, November.
Yeah, it can be challenging finding a location, and I've heard like lots of issues with permitting and construction and all that kind of stuff. Did you find a building that was already pretty well suited for a climbing gym, or did you have to do a lot of construction up front?
A little bit of both. I mean, we did end up doing a lot of construction, more than we wanted to, but we had reasonable rent in a building that was like just a nice sized open box that was there for us. It's essentially in like an old converted mall. It's not very mall-like anymore. You're not walking through hallways and going to shops. All the stores are exterior facing, right? So yeah, it was kind of just like wide open for us. And we did get some TI from the landlord, and then we covered the rest of construction ourselves, which was okay. We were smart about it. We prioritized where we wanted to spend, and that was mostly around what directly impacts the climbing experience. anything that doesn't, we didn't spend on it. And so, yeah, we ended up in a space that worked well for us, but mostly we were driven by like favorable rent costs.
If you don't mind me asking, do you have any outside investors, or did you have to go elsewhere to fund?
It is myself and Jack, and then we have like a silent third party partner who's involved. And then we took out a small SBA loan to fund the rest of it.
Looking back at the opening process, what are the biggest surprises or lessons you learned?
Well, as I was mentioning earlier, I feel fortunate enough to have had experience working with other companies opening gyms to where I wasn't blindsided by like, or we didn't miss anything pretty much, or like nothing was like, wow, that's like way more expensive than we thought, or this timeline prediction was way off. And that's why I always like recommend to people opening gyms, like bring on experience, or pay for experience. I think it saves you a lot. But for me personally, the biggest surprises were just two things: the roller coaster of emotions, right? Going from like, I no longer work for anybody else. I work for myself, and this is the best thing ever. To like carrying the weight of all of that, right? And now all the decisions land on you, and all the pressures and the burdens land on you. And then like just being totally in it, under pressure, under the gun, under timeline. So, and then coming back to like opening your first business and like staffing employees and hearing what they say about their love for the opportunity they've been given and like how much they love working with you and stuff. It's like every day it's like snip snap, right? It's full of joy, then it's full of a hell of a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So that was like one surprise. And the next surprise, and this is also less about opening climbing gyms, more about just being a business owner for the first time. You are juggling so many different things at once all the time. My attention has never had to be so like pointed in different directions, right? Like in the past, I've been able to like carry this baton and focus on this one thing for a while, even like throughout a day, right? But in starting a gym, I'm like picking paint colors. I'm dealing with permitting. I'm interviewing somebody. I'm dealing with a loan. I'm like designing a wall. I'm ordering shoes. It's like every 5 minutes, it felt like I was doing something else. So, having to have your head on a swivel feels like an understatement. And thankfully, like we had like a nice, robust plan and checklist to keep things in order. Because if we didn't, I'd just be lost, and who knows, we might not even still be open.
Yeah. So Jack has experience with running a business before Shift.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so he out of college in Atlanta, he started a digital marketing agency. They dealt a lot with search engine optimization and honestly a lot of stuff that I'm not like very articulate or educated about. But um he he and his partner eventually sold that company to the employees through an ESOP, employee stock ownership program, right? So now his employees own the company, and then they in turn sold it to a much bigger agency down the road, and that kind of cued his exit. And that was a really cool thing because it allowed really amazing things to happen in the lives of his employees. Right, they came out of there with a lot of incredible life changing stories and the opportunities that ownership granted them. It's something that Jack was really proud of, and I really admire in what he did. And what he carries to the table is definitely like a level headedness in the face of all the things we were just talking about, right? Like he's like, oh yeah, new business, been here, it's heinous. Like we just got to roll with it. And I'm like, nah, pulling my hair out all the time, right? So he brings like kind of steadiness to the business. He brings cultural care and the impact we can have on employees. Like just making sure that everybody feels like they belong. We're putting the right people in the right places. Um, that's really cool. And then, yeah, everything that comes with business ownership and management, those are kind of like the hats that he wears, is like business management and cultural and people stuff. Whereas I bring like the climbing experience side of things to the table.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to have someone that balances your skills and also can calm you down when things get crazy.
Well, we have a GM right now. Jack and I, like, we have different skill sets. We are relatively similarly like-minded. And we hired a GM that is like so chill. And that's really where the balance comes in. Is like when we're like, like going crazy, like guys, double-edged sword, right? Because we're like, bro, come on, we need you to step it up too. But also like, he's like, yo, guys, take a breath. It's gonna be fine. He helps us level set a little bit.
So when you
Yeah.
opened the gym, how many employees did you have?
Let's see. We have our general manager named Chase, and then we have an additional 5 others, and that's still the same staff that we have. It's a pretty small team. I mean, we're a modest sized gym, but the idea was that we would have fewer but more core staff working more full-time hours that would in turn make them more committed and bought in. We could do cooler things with training and continuing education and team building. You'd have to ask one of them, but I think that's going well. We definitely could use some more staff right now, but the core staff that we have is super dedicated. They love being there. They love what we're doing. And if it weren't for them, like we wouldn't have any of the success we have currently. Because when you read our Google reviews right now, it's like staff, 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 staff. They're all amazing.
Awesome. So did you have like a pretty intense hiring process or like 9 rounds of interviews to make sure they were
Yes.
perfect?
We kind of did actually. So we started everything with this hiring tool. I might be using the wrong words to describe it, but it's called Culture Index. And it basically allows us to take any applicant, and we immediately like, thanks for applying, fill this survey out for us. And it tells us 2 things. It tells us all about who they are, how they tick, and like how to best position them in a work environment to their strengths. And it also tells us like how satisfied or not they are in their current job. And we continue to use that tool to figure out how satisfied or not they are in their job with us. But that, what we did is we sat down and we're like, okay, these are the positions that we want filled. These are the kinds of people we want in them. And that was like the first step in the vetting process is like, do you match or do the personalities match between the candidate and the position? And anybody that's interested in that, like would love to help them out with Culture Index, get them going. I think it is like one of the most valuable hiring tools I have found anywhere. I live and die by it now. It's amazing. But then after that, we did like an initial screening call. It was like, hey, just get to know you over the phone. And then Jack and I did a call. And then Chase did a call with them. And then we met them in person. So like we were quite thorough, which it helps that we were only hiring a handful of people. It's still a lot of time with a lot of people, even at 3 or 4 potential candidates for 6 positions or so. But I think it's paid off. We got exactly the kind of people that we wanted. They are delivering exactly what we expected them to deliver. Yeah, we just poured a lot of energy into the hiring process. It's just something I don't think you want to screw up,
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll get more into the way that you run the gym and all of your like awesome ideas that you put together. But first I want to learn more about when you guys first opened the gym. So day one, what was your membership looking like? Did you have a fair amount of members already? Did you do a pre-sale, that kind of thing? What kind of marketing things did you do leading up to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We did a founding membership pre-sale, which we mostly drove through paid social media ads, promoting them at hard hat tours, which we started as soon and as frequently as possible for the gym open. And I think that quality content we started producing really early built a lot of psych around what was coming to Holland. So that was kind of the reason we launched that early. So I think that for a gym our size, we hit the ground running pretty well with a founding membership pre-sale. We probably got to about a quarter of the way of our like break even membership goal by the time we were open.
Can we talk
Which was
numbers
really
if you feel
nice.
free sharing numbers on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, and this changes constantly
Mhm.
with constant expenses and things like that changing.
Yeah.
But, to get to a break even state, we need like a few hundred plus members or something like that. Right. So you can do the math, and about a quarter of the way to there was our founding member pre-sale. And we are using a point of sale software called Beta out of Europe.
Okay.
Or as the French guy says, Beta. It's Steve. He's really great. I think we were maybe the second US company to adopt it. And he was like, this is the best founding member pre-sale we've seen. And I don't know what that means. Like I doubt that like our modest like double digit pre-sale numbers were like the best out there, but maybe for like the operation he's running or something that was really good. But I think a lot of we like definitely exceeded our founding member goals. And I think I can contribute that to the content that we started putting out there, like the hype we started building around the company before it opened. the amazing hospitality that we led with in our hard hat tours and sharing our vision and what was coming and things like that. And just, a little bit was luck, just like the nature of like a new, fresh thing and a different kind of climbing experience coming to a town that already had some of it in a different version.
Yeah, so you have a competitor gym in the area. How far
Mhm.
away are they?
Yeah, so in the same town as us, there's a great little local gym called Scrapyard Climbing. They're only a few miles away.
Oh wow, close. Okay.
Yeah, they're I don't remember exactly how old they are and like all their iterations, but a few to handful of years ago, they kind of expanded a little bit. They had a smaller amount of bouldering than we had, and like a modest height and number of top ropes in there as well. And their business model, I don't want to misquote them on it. You just ask them sometime. But from what I gather, it's like very outdoor centric climbing and grading. And it's a great vibe. They have a lot of great garage doors in there. They're super friendly staff. It feels a little bit more like your like try hard climbing gym in there. And they recently expanded, probably added another. Again, I'm not exactly sure, like a couple thousand square feet of bouldering terrain. So they're right down the road. And then about 40-ish minutes away in Grand Rapids, that's the biggest city near us, there's Terra Firma Bouldering, which is a great little bouldering gym, similar size to what we are. And just a couple months ago, Planet Rock opened a Grand Rapids facility, which is quite big. They have a lot of bouldering and they have a ton of tall lead walls as well. So, um, yeah, that's kind of what the competition looked like in the area.
Yeah, that's a fair amount of gyms. How do you differentiate when there's that many options for people to choose from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think that the climbing experience on the walls is the first way that you can easily differentiate. If you see opportunity there, I wouldn't like open a gym and just be like, all right, the climbs on our walls have to feel different than a neighboring gym. That's not necessarily the right way, but I think coming from my setting background and my approach to the climbing experience, naturally the climbs that we build feel and look a lot different than what is in Scrapyard down the road. So I think that just like the nature of the climbs themselves differentiates us. Um, One way that we seek to differentiate ourselves in the industry, not necessarily from Scrapyard, but just like anywhere else, is in like just extreme amounts of hospitality poured out to everybody that walks through the door. Um, and again, I'll reiterate, Scrapyard is super friendly and awesome. And I don't climb in there enough to know what their hospitality is like. So I'm not saying they are better or worse than us, right?
Hmm.
But we spend a lot of time pouring into our staff so they can in turn pour into people walking through the door and making sure they're taken care of, making sure that our staff are really educated on all the climbs on our wall so they can be guides to the climbing experience. Um, Writing, you know, thank you notes, personal messages, giving gifts to the people coming to the door. Like, again, when you read our Google
That's
reviews, like
awesome.
people love our staff, and it's because they genuinely really care about people coming in the door.
Are you mailing thank you cards?
Sometimes we write them and hand them to people on the way out. Sometimes we mail them. A couple times now, a few of our members have had newborns, and we've given them little like onesies with shift patches on them, and like people move away, and we give them gifts and say thank you. When it's people's birthdays, they're having a tough day, we make sure we service them best we can, whether it's through a cafe experience or something, sitting down and talking with them. Like that is what our staff does absolute best. Is care is one of our core values, and like they fucking care. Excuse my language. They like really care, and that comes from our general manager who like really cares as well. So that's like, again, I think industry differentiation. Um,
Absolutely. I've never heard of anyone doing that. That's incredible.
yeah, so that I think that's making a big difference. I think it's really what sets our climbing experience apart. Because when you walk in the door, you're like met with somebody that like really cares about who you are, why you're in. They tailor the introduction and the experience to what they understand your needs are and your experiences. And then when you get on our walls, not only are our climbs really approachable and accessible and creative and fun, but our staff is there to support you on your climbing journey as well. And then, of course, I think our cafe is a differentiator as well. I just don't know that there are that many or enough stateside gyms with cafes in them. And I think that's a really cool thing. I wouldn't say it's like bumping in there, but we sell a good bit of coffee to our member base. People come in there and just work and not climb, which is really cool. And we we allocated space to the cafe in lieu of like a staff lounge or just like a community lounge, because that kind of serves that purpose. And you just see a lot of community interaction happening in there. We can host events in there. People can get fueled up before or after their session. They can eat and drink snacks. They can come in and co-work and climb and co-work and climb and go back and forth. So, maybe those three things like are the ways we differentiate ourselves. And then I might add on like we're in pursuit of really compelling and educational content. And that one I think is maybe falling off a little bit right now just because of the bandwidth issues, but it's still something that we really aim to do, is provide like amazing resources for our community to learn, to grow, and to get psyched through.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of people doing that, providing like educational YouTube videos, at least climbing gyms providing that sort of service. Or, even through Instagram, you don't really see a lot of gyms doing instruction, that sort of thing. I assume that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like any kind of instructional content, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube, we want to start to build an encyclopedia that's for people.
Is that a Jack recommended things to help with SEO, or how'd you fall on that one?
No, no, no. That's more like my background and just trying different stuff in climbing gyms. Like a couple things that I've picked up on is like people love route setting content and climbing content more so than like ads. Like, well, if you look at our social media channels, we try to keep them as least ad heavy as possible. We want them to entertain and educate, right? And sometimes you got to promote things, and we do that. But what I found is like when you feed people stuff that's entertaining or educational, they eat it up, right? So I think that's an area in which a lot of gyms might be missing the mark a little bit,
Yeah.
because to me, we're not selling a product, we're selling an experience. And that experience, people buy the product as a result, right? I think back on like just some of the events that I've run in the past, the things that I've done that we leverage social media for, where it's me behind a camera talking about beta or technique or the setting process and remembering the feedback I got around that and how much people loved it. Like it's just led me to want to lead with that on our social media channels. Because I mean, I don't know, when you go on Instagram and you're scrolling around, right? I'm like looking at awesome music or funny clips or things, and then I hit like an ad. I'm like, okay, whatever. Next thing, like we want people to stop and be captivated by what we're putting out there, or seek us out for education and growth.
I mean, you guys are doing a great job with that. I think whenever I see a shift post, I always stop and I'm like, this is just fun. It's like, it's
Thanks, man.
usually, most of it's just kind of funny, but also it's like there's cool climbing going up and you get up close and personal with some of the climbs that you're setting. Like the filming's really well done. So I find it like educational and entertaining. So I think you guys are definitely nailing that.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's always a work in progress, and we're always coaching each other on how to film it better, or help it to resonate more. And another one of our core values is having a growth mindset. And we encourage our staff to have that growth mindset. And then we try to instill that same kind of growth mindset in our community, both through like by presenting that idea in the classes we teach, but also instilling constant change in everything we do day to day and celebrating that change, from the way that we like tag or don't tag the climbs on the wall, to like our turnover and rotation speed, to the colors of our circuits, to what we're doing with our white circuit, to like we might reset our Instagram here in a minute. We're not going to like get rid of what's on there, but we might go for a new style. Like we aim to keep people on their toes, because what I don't want to do is kind of get in this rut and this rhythm where we're just doing the same thing all the time. We want to like keep evolving, keep growing. And I think that's representative of like healthy long-term climbing journeys too. Which is why we're not like, here's your new Tuesday set, eat it up, and then we'll see you next Tuesday. We try to instill this like critical thought and growth mindset into our community, whether it's through route setting or the presentation of it, or our marketing or social media or our classes, whatever it is. Try to keep people on their toes. That's some way we're trying to be different.
So that's really cool. So if you're trying to continue this growth mindset and changing and evolving, how do you know what not to change?
Oh man.
Or does anything go? Does anything go there?
That's a good question. I think that I would say that anything is subject to change. At least that's me. I'm not. I
Okay.
wouldn't recommend
Okay.
this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like anything and everything is subject to change. There are plenty of times that I'm like, this is going pretty well. It's scary to change it, but like we do it. Like we have to do it, right? Otherwise, we're not going to learn. We're not going to grow. We're just going to kind of get stagnant, right? We were doing that recently with like just a promo we were doing. Like, we've been running this for a month or two. Like it's going really well. Do we keep it going? Do we change it? And we're like, I mean, there could be something out there that works a lot better. There could be something that doesn't work nearly as well, but we're never going to know if we don't try. And I think that what's scarier is when you don't try new things, then your community starts to get a fixed mindset around those things, and they forget what that growth and change feels like, and then it gets really hard down the road for you to institute that growth and
Sure.
change.
I love the idea of like having this broad philosophical concept of growth and then just living it, like embodying it, and then being like, hey, we're doing it. You should do it. I think that's great.
Well, I'll tell you what's like the hardest part of it right now is like I truly wholeheartedly believe this, and we're leading with that. As a new gym owner, as a new company, when everybody's bandwidth is getting sucked up by all kinds of things, it's really hard to pause and be like, let's change something, you know? Let's do something else. Sometimes you really need steadiness, but that's where the biggest challenge for me comes in, is like creating the capacity to also live that growth mindset value out and institute change despite really not wanting to add more to your plate right now.
Yeah, without driving the GM crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're 6 months in, you said. Do you feel like your membership is where you want it to be currently? And have you kind of changed, talking about evolution, have you changed anything about how you're attracting new climbers to the gym?
Good one. We're not happy with where our membership is right now. I will say, so like in our first month of operation, we doubled our revenue projections. So we were like celebrating, like we loved it. Like it was going to be easy. And then Michigan summer came in, and we've seen like really modest growth since then, right? Which, coming from, having been in the industry for a long time, I'm actually pleased with that. As difficult as it is to like not see the growth that we wanted in the first 6 months, we didn't decline. We haven't stayed flat, and that feels really good. Like knowing that we're a new gym, we're trying to attract new people to us, and Michigan summers can be really, really nice. Everybody wants to be on the beach or out hiking or whatever. So, and we've done some things like a lot of outbound outreach and getting out and inviting people into our space, building partnerships with local businesses, running promos and things like that. That has helped throughout the summer. We didn't just like sit back and let it happen.
Yeah. Are you guys running ads, or are you mostly just doing like in-person stuff?
Yeah, we run ads. We spend a few $100 a month on like social media advertising, and we track how that does and doesn't work. We have A/B testing going on with all of our ads that we put out there. We boost some stuff we have. We create specific ads to target specific audiences in other areas. We also have, our hospitable staff spends time emailing, calling, connecting with people in the gym as well. Like for instance, we run a 2-week promo where you can come in and climb for 2 weeks unlimited at a discounted rate. And I feel very confident the vast majority of people coming into the gym know about this, just because our staff is so well educated.
Like a trial membership of sorts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. That rolls over into your first month if you want.
Got it. Okay.
So like that goes into like the core team and how bought in they are. Like it's easy for us to train them and knowledge share with them and develop, this sounds gross, but like sales tactics or whatever around stuff, right? And when people come in the door, like we can rely on our staff to communicate about those things really, really well, as opposed to like your minimum wage high school or something like that, who may do a really great job or may just want a free climbing membership, right? So
I know that the climbing industry is allergic to the word sales. It's very,
it is.
But honestly, like what you're saying, it's like when you're providing people with the information and you believe in the thing that you are selling, and you believe that it's going to benefit people, it's not, you can call it sales, but really you're just saying, hey, I'm like just trying to convey to you how awesome this is and why you should hang out with us, like that's really what it is.
Yeah. And in like the same vein of like hospitality, we're never like, so our 2-week is an example of this. Our 2-week trial membership automatically rolls over into a monthly EFT, right? we make sure people are aware of that up front when they buy the 2-week membership. We lead with that. And then we actually get on the call when their 2 weeks on the phone, when their 2 weeks is about to expire,
Pretty cool.
ask them
Nice.
how their time has been. Like, what could we do better? What has it been like? Tell me about your journey. Also, just a heads up, this is happening in a couple days. So like, none of it feels gross. It is all about supporting people. And going into gym ownership, even being in other gyms, I've always led with this mindset that like, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be a discount brand. This is an amazing experience. It's a premium experience, and people, I don't want to say should want to pay for it, but I think the value of it should be obvious, right? So it's actually been like really hard for me in the early months of gym ownership to start discounting things and running promos and running sales, because going into this, we had said we're not doing this thing. These are our prices. This is what we're doing. But what I've learned is, there's not so much of a need to get a deal in front of people's faces, but people aren't really aware of what your experience offers, and that's the reason for the deal, right? Like, people that aren't climbers, that like aren't going to drop the full day pass price or a full membership price month one. Like, you have to dangle the carrot and show them what it is, and then they're willing to pay the full price. So it's not so much about like offering deals to get people to stick with you. It's offering deals to get people in the door to show the value of what you're offering. So that's kind of been like a evolution of thought for me.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
yeah. So
sense.
anyways, yeah.
It's such a noisy world out there, right? People are getting
Mm-hmm.
hit with ads and Instagram and things stealing their attention left and right. And so you have to like be like, "Hey, come here. Check this thing out." You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
hard to get people's attention. So it makes sense that you're like, "Hey, let's throw like a big old zero on there, or a free, or
Yeah.
whatever it
Uh-huh.
is." And then people like instantly see it. And then once they come in, they're like, "Hey, actually, this place is awesome." Right?
I mean, definitely what you're saying, like slapping big free, free, free. You're like, slashing prices. That never feels good when I'm making those ads. So I try to avoid that kind of thing, right? And there's this constant internal battle being waged that's like, when you're making an ad, you want to make it look like they're getting a thick deal.
Mm-hmm.
But you also want to stay true to your values and what you want your brand image to look like. And you want it to convey meaning and the purpose and the why behind things, right? And
Totally.
oftentimes those things can really be in conflict with one another. Like,
Right.
you look like a big box, heavy discount brand versus you look like an amazing elevated experience. So, I mean, walking that line, get it right sometimes, get it wrong other times. And that's where a lot of the A/B testing comes in with the social media ads too, right? Sometimes we run 2 different ads, and one looks like just a nice little blurb about what our experience offers and says, "Hey, this is on sale if you want it." And the other one's like, slash, 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 like 50% off or something like that. It's not really that bad, but
Yeah.
that's what it feels like when I'm making it. And yeah, so we'll see what that kind of stuff yields, and what the best course of action is there.
Yeah, I think that like you can convey your branding and what you stand for in your advertising at a discount with, like, in your example, the attention to detail in the things that
Mhm.
you're creating, like even the climbs that are on the walls, like how beautiful they look while you're filming them, or whatever it is, the pictures that you're taking. I think a lot of times those things hopefully can be conveyed to someone who's just scrolling by on Instagram, and they it catches their eye for a few seconds or whatever it is. So that's a good take, though. I think it's important to think about too. You want to stay true to your values, but you also want to be like, "Hey, I want people to like notice us and know that we exist."
Yeah, and I
Cool.
would encourage nobody to take my advice for it, because we're a new gym and trying to make it work. And some marketing dude out there somewhere has the answer to this, but I certainly don't.
So how would you describe the community you've created so far?
I would say that they are close knit, and that's largely due to, I think, the way what our staff leads with, right? Like, knowing names, connecting people with others. The events that we run, like, there's definitely a core group of people in there that serve as like the heartbeat of what happens in our space, and you feel it when you're in there. And the size of our space helps with that. With only 5,100 square feet of climbing surface, it's a really nice, relatively intimate feeling space where you can see everybody, you can climb with everybody. And so, like, I think it's the community is close knit. I think that they're open-minded. And also I attribute that to the great work that our staff has done. Opening the gym, we threw a lot of new ideas against the wall. We don't mark our start hold specifically. There isn't a grade number to be found anywhere in the building. We have a mystery white circuit. We're about to change our circuit colors around, color of the hold arounds.
That's a cool idea.
So and what's been the most surprising to me, also our turnover isn't consistent. Sometimes it's 3 weeks for a circuit, sometimes it's 6 or 7 weeks for a circuit. And so that to me is a sign of two things. Like, our staff, when they're introducing people to the space for the first time, they're celebrating what we do and why we do it. And that lands, right? And I think that what we were talking about with like constantly instituting change has an impact. And it's been shocking, but I've literally heard only recently my first piece of critical feedback around what we do. In the 6 months we've been open, like, I expected people to be like, where are the grades? Where are the start holds? Where is this? Turn this over, like, name it, right? It's in there.
Do you mind sharing what it was?
It was actually around the turnover speed of some of our friendlier circuits.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and some of that is fair. Like, it does get slow sometimes. I've always said, like, I don't ever want to discredit anybody's feedback or concerns, right? But I always try to filter them or understand where they're coming from, right?
Yes.
So one of the reasons that we vary the turnover speed and we reset by circuit, there's another thing we do differently, right? Like,
that's
we
cool.
reset an entire circuit at a time, is to get people out of this routine and to keep people from ever establishing this routine where they're going to climb on the new set on Tuesday that's got like the V5 and the V6 form. They do that, and then they're like, I've done all I can do. And we've like lost in climbing gyms the idea of projecting, the idea of like working out movements, learning movements, or perfecting movements on climbs people already done. So a lot of this stuff is built around that idea that we want people to become lifelong climbers that are filled with the same values that I had when I started climbing. Like, I want to push myself and try harder things and learn movements that are seemingly outside my realm and wheelhouse right now. I want to go back to climbs I've done and try and climb them better. So when I hear that person say things are too slow, on one hand, I'm like, I see that, and I partially agree. Right? Like, we're a little short-staffed in route setting right now, and we need to speed up our turnover. That would be nice. I also want to make sure that our staff is adequately conveying like the rewards that come with trying harder things, trying different things, and approaching climbing in different ways. And now, I didn't have a conversation with this person, right? I'm still looking to. But those are the kinds of questions I would ask them. It's like, what are your climbing experiences? What do your climbing sessions look like? Are you trying hard for yourself? Or are you just coming in doing the same thing over and over again? Because, yeah, if you only come in and climb on the pink circuit, that's all you do, you're going to get tired of the pink circuit in 4 or 5 weeks for sure. But, if you're trying easier climbs that are hard for you, or trying harder climbs that suit your strengths and weaknesses, like, then I think there's a really rewarding experience to be gained inside of Shift. So anyways, long-winded way to say it was a complaint about turnover. I'm curious to know more from that customer on why, but regardless, literally to have one complaint in the 6 months we've been open, despite throwing so many new things against the wall, I'm really proud of that.
That's very surprising too. With circuits, without start hold, I mean, you're doing so many things differently. Like, in some markets, I know people would just be like losing their minds. So, you're definitely doing something right. Yeah.
I've been wondering a lot about that. Like, if we ever open a gym in a bigger market with more established climbing or something, how are people going to react? But I'm just one guy with one set of opinions, but I feel like when you walk into any business and you're greeted with smiling staff that is like, welcome to our place. Here's what we do, and we love it for these reasons. Where are you going to be like, this is stupid? I mean, it's going to be hard to do that, right? You like know at least what you're getting into and what to expect from the experience that you're buying.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like, everyone's well educated and communicating the philosophy and idea of the gym up front, I can totally see that. Being very clear, being like, this is what we are. It's not a normal climbing gym. I just want to let you know when you come in here. I think that's fair. I think if that communication's super clear, and like you said, everyone's kind of living those values, that, and it's culturally what people do in the gym, I feel like, yeah,
Mhm.
that could resonate in most places.
And then,
But
we reinforce that around in our marketing and our content and the language we use in our emails. Like, it's like, here's what we are, here's what we are, here's what we are, and this is why it's awesome. This is why it's awesome, So if you're a part of our community, the idea is that you're bought into that.
yeah, the white circuit being anything seems super cool. I love that idea. And then the idea of rotating your circuits around so that the difficulties of different colors change. Genius. That's awesome.
Well, we're glad to try it for the first time, so you should check in a couple months
Okay.
and see if it actually how it works. But that's the idea.
Do you have a pretty balanced set of holds in every color?
Yeah, balanced enough to start doing this. Like,
Yeah.
that's because I had this idea in mind when I was placing the hold order, right? So
Yep.
I tried to order not like nothing but jugs in orange, right? Like, I tried to order a variety of things, and
Nice.
I can only stretch that so far with the opening hold budget. But I've built in enough variety to allow us to switch circuit difficulties like 1 to 2 places. So
Mm.
well, like, we have 7 circuit colors, so we'll just like kind of flip flop what's next to it for right now.
So it sounds like if you don't have a lot of complaints coming in about your gym, you probably have pretty good retention. Do you know like if what your retention has been like
Mhm.
with people that started on day one to today?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I don't know the percentage off of the top of my head. I have to look that up, but
Mhm.
we do, review who we've gained, lost, and frozen every month or every week, really. We have a weekly leadership meeting. We talk about that stuff. And going back to our hospitality, like, when we lose a couple members, our GM that we're meeting with knows who it was and knows why they left.
Yeah,
Right. Which is awesome. They're not just like numbers on the board or just names on the board, and we don't know where they go. And so the vast majority of people that we've lost as members have been because they moved, college started back up, and they went back to school. And I can think of one person that we've lost because they preferred the experience of the neighboring gym.
that's really impressive.
Yeah,
So it
this
seems
thanks. It
like
seems good.
yeah. Well, yeah, it seems really good. But I'm sure like all these systems that you're putting in place, from hospitality to the setting philosophy, it seems like they're all targeted towards trying to make a person's experience from the beginning, and making them feel valuable from the beginning all the way through till forever, right? Like you're talking about like reaching out during birthdays and things like that. You're just trying to show how much you care, and I think that that's huge. I hope and I imagine that you will have pretty good retention. It sounds like if you guys are putting that attention to detail into caring for other people.
Something just popped in my mind as you were saying that, Chris, which is like the question you asked me earlier about how do you know when not to change something, right? And if I'm doing our values justice, I should be looking at like every single bit of our company through that lens. And, like, do we ever change how we set by circuit? That's where I would have like a really hard time switching things up because it's kind of core to who we are and what we do. But am I living my values if we don't try to mess with that? I'm not sure. I bring this up because, like, people do like our experience. And I think that once they buy into it, it's a very sticky experience. But what's on the other side of that fence? Like, if we were set by section, do more people love us? Do they
Mm.
not? This is where you get into the like unknowns. And,
Hmm.
maybe that one's a little bit easier because we fall back on like what the kind of climbing experience we want to offer is and what's important to us, what we value. But I still got to ask myself those questions, right? Like, anything should be subject to change. And some of those things are really big. And I don't know if I'm ready to grapple with that or not.
Right, totally. But it seems like you have a pretty like solid set of core values starting off with. So
Hmm.
you have those implemented and you're like keep putting all of your effort into those things. But I do like the idea of being like, hey, you know what? If we're wrong, we're wrong. Let's just cut our cut our losses and adapt to what people need and want. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to get into like we don't really have to get into numbers, but maybe some sort of idea of like where you when you know you've met your goal with this gym specifically, or with wanting to open new gyms and knowing that this location is successful enough that you can open a new gym.
Uh, I think I could probably think about it and give you a lot more than what I'm about to give you now. But a couple of things that have always been top of mind are like success to us looks like being able to do really cool things for and with the people that work with us. Like I told you, Jack sold his company through an ESOP to his employees years ago. Like whether it's that or whether it's something similar, that would be really rewarding to both Jack and I. It's something we'd love to do. But even short of that, like investing in them, developing them, whether it's through like external or internal continuing education, enabling them to go do cool things with their lives, supporting them in that endeavor, continuing to increase the benefits that we offer them. I mean, most of our, I don't know, I guess financial goals are centered around wanting to be an amazing place to work. Like if you look at our website and what we stand for, that's one of the things we lead with is being a really great, kind of like a game-changing employer in a way. And I mean, one thing I'm learning is that it's really hard to do as a new business, harder to do than expected. But I do think that what we invest currently is outside the norm. I mean, I know what we invest currently is outside the norm for the climbing industry. And I also know that we're seeing a return on that investment in terms of what our staff offer our community. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like we've made it is like our staff is psyched and they're reaping the rewards of us making it as well.
That's an amazing answer.
Yeah,
Not what
well,
I expected.
I'll leave it at that then.
So good.
I'll not screw it up, but that's the idea. Yeah. And yeah, it's like, it's a hard thing to do, but that's kind of what we started this whole thing with. Like we wanted to have the best climbing experience, the best content, and be the best employers.
Well, to close out this podcast, if you have one piece of advice to other gym owners, biggest piece of advice, what would it be?
In line with what we were just talking about, I would say like invest in your employees and spend time working with them around the things that you offer and the experience you're trying to create. Like, because that makes a difference in the community that you're building.
Cool. And where can people follow you guys, find out more about Shift?
Good question. Instagram, we're Shift Climbing. We're on Facebook, but we do a pretty bad job of that. We're mostly talking about kids programs there. YouTube channel is pretty fun. We need to update that, but there's some cool videos and content in there that's maybe like atypical for climbing gyms. And our website's got stuff too. You can always sign up for our email if you want, but Instagram's the most fun.
JB, it was awesome to learn more about Shift and learn about what you're doing over there. You guys are killing it. Everything I've seen has been amazing. So thanks for taking the time to meet.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It's really good talking to you, Chris.